You're listening to Little Green Cheese, episode 13. Well, welcome back. I'm Gavin Weber, and this podcast is where you can learn about cheese making at home. This week's guest is from Western Australia. I have Nigel Laubsch as my guest, and he is a home cheese maker, amongst other things. A very interesting interview, so sit back and enjoy. My guest today on the Little Green Cheese podcast is Nigel. Nigel comes from a suburb called Midland in Perth in Western Australia. Say good day, Nigel.
Hey, everybody.
Nigel, can you introduce yourself, please, mate?
Yes, I'm 45-year-old. Spent most of my time working in the mining industry, and I'm living in Western Australia now. Grew up in South Australia with a very much Germanic background, and very much into the slow food type movement of making lots of my own food wherever possible, and not aiming for self-sufficiency, but it's something I sort of lean towards. I have a fairly sized aquaponics system that keeps us in fish most of the year and probably does about half our veggies. So really, yeah, very much into the food. That's probably the main hobby I've got.
Oh, fantastic. So you tell me that you're a bit of a keen cheese maker. How long have you been making cheese for?
Yeah, consistently, probably only about 6 months, but I had a first go about 18 months ago, and I made a few farmhouse cheddars. And then for various reasons and job changes and so on, I didn't get back to it. But I kept those in a cheese cave that I'd set up. It's an old fridge.
Yeah.
With a thermostat on it. And eventually got to them about 12 months later. And they were absolutely amazing. They're truly fantastic. I've got some good friends that live very close by here that are very much into the same sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And gave some to them, and they were just blown away. So that fired us back up, and I certainly got back into it, and I've got one or two of my mates back into it, and we're making a lot of cheese now. I'm doing it every couple of weeks at the minute.
That's fantastic. So what was the reason you started in the first place?
Always wanted to. Love cheese since I could walk, basically. And spending a lot of time growing up in the Barossa Valley where family farms were. There was always cheese, there was always sausage. It was just, I'd like to be making my own cheese and just get some variation to what's out there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So do you have any resources that you learnt, or did you do a course, or how'd you get into it?
I got into it through I don't know. I just decided I wanted to do it, and I looked around. I got onto the Green Living Australia website and just started buying some basic components from those, and had a go at the cheddars, and loved doing it. It just other things got in the way, but it was just a small step, and then leapt straight in.
No, fantastic. So didn't do a course or anything? No.
No.
Oh, good.
No.
That's great.
Yeah, there is a place down in Midland that does, because we live just out of Midland, that is doing a cheese course, but I only found about that after I'd started, so at which point I've never really bothered.
Yeah, so you probably didn't need to, eh?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think a lot of it was about selling the stuff they do, because it was through a retail outlet that sells kitchen equipment and stuff down there, and I've seen on their website they've got a lot of kits.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So what sort of cheeses do you make?
Varied. I've done a few of those cheddars now. I've done, almost starting to lose count of fetters now. We eat a lot of feta.
Yeah.
For various reasons. I've done cream cheese as well, sour cream. Camembert is the one I'm trying to get right, and I've had 3 batches of that now, and I still haven't got it right.
Yeah,
it's a problem for me, that one.
It's a tricky cheese, Camembert, isn't it?
Yeah. And my problem is that I'm a big fan of the mould ripened cheeses. I've got a Danish Blue and a Gorgonzola up in the cave at the moment that are 30 something days old.
Nice.
I scraped them the other day.
Yeah. You having any trouble with the holes closing up in those blues, or?
Not really. They seem to be all right.
Yeah.
It's forming quite a thick crust on them at the minute.
Yeah.
And I think it's the Gorgonzola. I've only just had to pierce that. That sits for 30 days before you pierce it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it gets a good covering, yeah.
Yeah, whereas the Danish Blue, you pierce on about day 3, I think it is, and I've re-pierced that a couple of times.
Fantastic. So where do you make your cheeses? And do you make them with friends, you mentioned?
Yeah, do a bit of both. I do a lot of it myself, but we've had at least one day with a good friend that lives a couple of blocks away. He's the guy that organises all the sausage making and so on that we do.
Yeah.
So it was good to host him back this way instead of being down his place. Yeah. Yeah, but mainly in the kitchen.
And that's as simple as it gets, yeah?
Yeah, it is. We've got a large sort of bench and it sort of overlooks Perth, and it's a great place to make cheese.
I bet it is. I bet it is. We've got a couple of lagers as well, I suppose.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
especially when I get some Coopers in WA.
Now you touched on one cheese that's particularly tricky, which was Camembert. Do you have any other issues with cheese making?
No, I don't know whether I've been lucky or what it is. No, everything else it's been pretty good so far. No, the Camemberts are just a real challenge.
Yeah. So what's your main issue with that?
Um, the mold, the outside rind forms perfectly, and there's like a central core of solid cheese that is fine, but the outside, and I'm probably talking from the outside rim to about a centimetre and a half to 2 centimetres in, is quite runny,
Yeah.
and I'm getting that every time.
Yeah. And it smells like ammonia.
Yeah, it's quite a strong smell. It tastes great. I mean, the taste is spot on, but
Yeah.
it's got it's a very strong Camembert smell.
Yeah. So what temperature are you maturing it at? Pretty low or?
The fridge sits about 10 or 12 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, it varies a little. But
I found with Camembert that I was maturing it at a too high temperature.
yeah,
It was around between 12 and 13.
yeah,
And
that was.
I was getting off smells. The rind didn't grow, it'd bloom, it'd be beautiful. And I found that I had to get it even lower down, and my cheese fridge won't go down to 7, which most of the recipes I've got say 7 degrees. So basically what I did was about the 3-week mark, I ripened it in the normal refrigerator,
Yep.
just in the warmest place, and I seemed to have a bit of success. So
Yeah.
it it
Yeah.
it matured all the way through the cheese. It wasn't terribly runny all the way through, and the rind stuck to the cheese properly. So it took me about 3 goes to get it.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's probably a good idea. I might do
Yeah,
that on the next one.
and I also had to use instead of just Penicillium camemberti, I had to use Geotrichum as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've got that. I didn't put it in though.
Yeah, Geotrichum tends to make the rind stick to the cheese better. It doesn't when sometimes when you turn it, it's quite tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I add that in now, and it works out a treat. But you still get the odd failure where you're not quite sure what happened, but that happens with all mold cheeses, unfortunately.
Yeah. 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 They're tricky. Unfortunately, they're my favourite, but I'll keep going. The blue ones seem to be working fine. So.
Oh, the blues are quite good because even if they turn out to be a bun fight, they still taste fantastic and they still smell fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen your adventures with them, and I'm happy with the way the rind's turning out and everything.
Yeah, it's great. So where do you get your milk from?
It depends what I can get. I got a reasonable access here to a unhomogenised milk that comes out of Margaret River, and that's stocked in the local supermarket here.
Yeah.
So that certainly makes a better curd than say the normal homogenised varieties of milk that we get. The only trouble is it's organic, so you pay through the nose for it. If I could get an unorganic or non-organic unhomogenised cheese, that'd be perfect.
Yeah. So what sort of price you're paying for the milk?
$4.50 for 2 litres.
Oh, that's not too bad,
Yeah, it's not nuts, but it's.
But you got to think the quality of the milk determines the quality of the cheese, right?
Yeah, no, and that's absolutely true. I've compared that in the fetters, and that's the hands down win.
Oh, they're amazing. So I get a similar sort of brand over here. It's not organic, but it's non-homogenized, and it beats the store-bought homogenized stuff hands down.
Yeah,
And it doesn't even matter if you add calcium chloride to the homogenized stuff, you still can't get a curd as nice and strong and the taste of the cheese is so much better too. So
Definitely. I've just discovered a brand. The name escapes me at the moment, but it's WA, and they're actually doing Jersey specific milk, so pasteurised, but nothing else.
Nice and creamy.
Yeah, I've got to get my hands on some of that yet, but that's my next trip.
Yeah, it's difficult to get a good supply of milk all year round because, dairy cows really shouldn't be milked all year round, but they are, and they put them into calf to get that to happen. So
yeah, and that sort of fits in with that slow food thing. It's if it's seasonal, that's when you do it. It's seasonal.
Yeah, exactly.
It's seasonal for a reason.
So what do you, besides the cheeses that you make, and you may say that they're all fantastic and your favourite, but what's your real favourite cheese?
Real favourite, blue cheese.
So any particular type?
I'd have to toss it up between a good Gorgonzola, and I mean a strong Gorgonzola, not the light ones.
Yeah, so the proper Italian ones.
And a Stilton.
So the proper Italian ones, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, the old ones, not the new ones they've brought in.
Yeah. No, they're fantastic. And, Stilton is exceptionally creamy as well, but the kick on it is just delightful.
Yeah. No, if I could perfect that, I'd be a happy man.
I think you'll be fine. Yeah, if you've got a couple in the cheese fridge now, you got a bit to choose from, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I'm keen. I've got to wait a while yet, though.
So what are some of the other things you do? We've talked about cheese, and I'm cool with that, and I reckon you've got that nutted, and you just keep progressing there, and you'll do a fantastic job. So what are some of the other things? You talked about making sausage or salami from scratch. Talk us through that.
Yeah, that's a big adventure. This friend that lives nearby, he's Spanish, a Basque family, so a large family. And they've started doing it every year now, and I'm the only one that joins in that's a non-family member. But we get 12, 15 people together.
Yeah.
And we'll spend 12 hours just chopping pork shoulder up into 5mm bits. So we're talking about 120 to 150 kilos of pork shoulder.
Goodness me.
Oh, yeah, it takes all day. It's a labour of love. But you do get a completely different texture if you mince it, because you smear the fat and the meat together.
Yeah.
And that gives you a different texture if they're separately chopped.
Yeah.
So we spend all day doing that, and then it tends to be all night, sort of then mixing the spices in and getting it into the skins.
Mm.
Then let it hang for a week or so, depending on what the temperature's like and how much wind you can keep off it, because you sort of got to hang it outside.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that's allowed to hang it inside, unfortunately. But that'd be perfect. The smell's a bit off-putting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, so you really only build up the energy for that once a year, but it's winter. That's the time of the year you do it.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to do it in the Australian summer, would you?
No, they dry out too fast.
Yeah.
I've had them dry out, so I had some dry out too fast once, and because you want to lose about 20 to 30% of your moisture out of them, and I had some that lost 20% in 2 days.
Goodness me.
And I thought, this is not good, but if they keep going, they're either going to seal up on the outside and the inside will stay wet and go off, or whatever. So I had to vacuum pack those.
Yeah, so it's something you just can't do, can you?
No, it's a real feel thing. There's no sort of solid way of doing it unless you've got a specifically designed room that's humidity controlled and whatever else. Which I don't know anybody that's got that rather than commercial producers.
Yeah, a bit like a cheese cave, I suppose.
Yeah. So it really comes down to being quite the art.
Yeah, exactly. So what sort of things do you add to the chorizo?
Chorizo, once you've got the meat cut up, we turn that in. Obviously, there's a reasonable amount of salt. There's fennel seeds.
Yep.
So it's quite a unique flavour. Then it's paprika, chili. That's the majority of what we put in.
So you don't add any additional. So obviously some salt.
Yep.
To get rid of the moisture.
Yep.
But no, you don't use like sodium nitrate or anything like that, or.
No. If you get the salt levels right, and we still do play with that a little bit, we sort of reduce it this year for what we had last year, and then get that moisture level down. The salt's enough to inhibit the bacteria. You don't need to add a culture. You don't need nitrates.
No, that's good, because those things are in large quantities. They're not good for you.
No, it's true. And this thing keeps perfectly. We sort of get them dried, and then I vacuum seal them and freeze them, and we just pull them out as we need them.
Oh, fantastic!
So that day lasts us, pretty much a year, really, for the four of us.
Yeah. So how big and how long I'm trying to describe it in my mind. It's pretty hard to do on a podcast. It's probably more visual. But how long are the sausages, and
Okay.
how many do you get each?
My allocation this year, I think, was 60.
Goodness me.
Then there'd be 200 mil long, 250 mil long. There's no, they're all done by hand, so then, there's a fair bit of variance.
Yeah, so it's just under a foot for our US
Americans. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, 20 to 25 centimetres. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. So what else do you make?
We're getting in once a year now. We're doing making the passata as well, so the tomato concentrate.
Yep.
Again, that's through the same friend and his family. So we had last year, I think we cut up 120 kilos of tomatoes between us, and I got 100 beer bottles of passata out of that. I'm not even sure I'm going to finish that by next year. It's,
you have to give them away.
Yeah, well, we certainly do. We that's a system that sort of goes on around here a bit in the Perth Hills. It's we've got friends that give us eggs, and so we just trade food with them. I give them feta or tomato sauce or whatever else we've got going on. I'd love to have chooks, but the wife's not into it, so we haven't got chooks.
Yeah, that's a shame.
But well, we can swap around. Otherwise, we'd probably have too many eggs anyway.
Yeah, true, and we do all the time. That's so hard to get rid of. Well,
yeah,
they're not so hard to get rid of because people will buy them off you, no problems at all.
Yeah.
And it's just when you have a glut, it's just your fridge starts to pack up with egg cartons. So.
Yeah, and also you got to have an omelette night or something, or make up a whole pile of quiches or whatever.
That's right, and you can and as you said, you can swap them for anything you like. I just unfortunately around where I live, there's not too many people that I know anyway that that make produce as much produce as I do. You sound like you've got a great little community going there that you can do that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's certainly people interested. And I've got other friends that want to get into the cheese that just haven't quite made the leap yet.
Yeah,
we'll get them there.
Hey, you could get them to listen to the podcast. Maybe they'll make the leap.
Yeah. Well, a good friend that I do the sausage and the tomato with, he already does.
Oh, fantastic!
But no, I've got to get some more onto it.
Oh, great. That's great. So, what are some words of encouragement, Nigel, that you give to any beginner cheesemakers?
Probably some of the Nike advice I've heard before is just go for it. I look at cheese as sort of a continuous spectrum, and the defined types that we already know of are sort of these points on that spectrum. But if you miss that and you hit something else that's not really there, you've still got cheese. It's still going to be nice. It may not just be quite what you were going for.
Yeah, true. And if I've had the worst 30-minute mozzarella's turn into a lovely ricotta, so.
Yeah,
you can always make a cheese out of what you've got. The milk never goes, it never spoils. Well, not spoils. It never goes to waste.
Yeah, definitely. The only time I've had to go to waste was when I was going out to hang one of the fetters out, and for some reason my cheesecloth ripped, and it all just ended up on the dirt underneath where I was going to hang it. And the dog thought it was great, but
I bet
I didn't. Otherwise, everything else I've made, we've eaten. I did the 30-minute mozzarella. I've only done that once.
Yeah.
Didn't like it just eating the cheese. I didn't do it as a big mozzarella. I made it into little bocconcinis.
Yeah.
And they weren't that great on their own, but we put them on some homemade pizzas one night, and they were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Did you add lipase to the?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. I thought I prefer a strong flavoured cheese, and I thought I'll put that in. And it's don't know. The consistency, everything else was right. I just didn't. Maybe it's just that cheese.
Yeah, I always find that about 24 hours later, the flavour like doubles. It's just
Yep.
So it's a shame. But yeah, mozzarella's not known to be a strong tasting cheese anyway. I suppose they probably make it for the melting qualities that it has.
Yeah, man, that worked a treat.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, it's been lovely talking to you, Nigel. Thanks very much for talking through your home cheese making and all the other goodies that you make.
It's
been quite insightful, actually.
Yeah, it's all right. Thanks, mate. We can do it again sometime if you like.
No, that'd be lovely. I'll check back in about 6 months and see how many more cheeses you got under your belt.
Oh, yeah. And I've probably done a couple other different things by then too.
Oh, I dare say you probably have.
No worries, mate.
All right,
good talking to you.
Nigel. See you later.
See ya.
Well, it's been a few weeks since I did some listener questions, so let's get stuck into those. I've got 3 this week. The first one is from Robert Pickett, and he's from Tacoma, Washington, USA. He says, "Hello, Gavin. I've just been watching your video on making Parmesan Part 1 and saw you pouring off the whey byproduct and was curious if it could have been made to use ricotta. Can ricotta always be made from whey or only after making certain kinds of cheese? Can whey from one type of cheese be combined with the whey from another kind of cheese to make ricotta? For example, if I make Parmesan today, could that whey be combined with whey from Camembert Session? I really enjoy your videos and appreciate the effort you put into them. I'm learning a lot and look forward to making my own cheeses soon. My family, having a pair of 6-year-old twins, is very milk orientated. I'm going to make yogurt, cream cheese, butter, and several other dairy products. Best wishes, Robert. Thanks very much, Robert. Appreciate your email. Now, the answer to your question, can you combine different types of whey from different cheeses? Well, so let's start on Parmesan that you mentioned there. Yes, you can use that as a basis for whey ricotta, and you'll probably have to add some extra milk to get any volume of cheese there. I wouldn't mix whey from, say, a Camembert Session, because the Camembert has been inoculated with the Penicillium camberti, and you may end up with fuzzy ricotta. I'm not saying that will happen. It does take a while for that to grow, but it would be unusual. So no, I wouldn't combine them. The best sort of cheeses for making whey ricotta, the leftovers, are the cheddar types. Anything that still has a fair bit of protein in the whey, and you can tell when you make Parmesan, a lot of the protein is gone because you've been using skimmed milk to start with. So there's not a lot of bulk to it. There's not a lot of curds to start with. So those two examples, probably not so much. Great for pet feed or for putting in cakes or pancakes or that sort of stuff, or any sort of baking. That's what I would use the whey from those two types of cheeses from. So hopefully that's answered your question. So the next question I have is from Dennis. And Dennis Carney doesn't say where he's from. He says, "Hi Gavin, I'm new to your cheese making blog and have been enjoying the posts I've read so far. I've been making cheese for the past couple of years here in Inman Valley, South Australia, with varying degrees of success, and I'm interested in trying your Colby recipe. I'm a bit stuck on what I'm a bit stuck on is the starter culture type. I'm used to type A, B, C, etc. So I'm not sure if your MO30/31 is another naming convention for these types, or whether this is a completely different culture. And if so, can you tell me where I might purchase the product?" I'm not going to tell you where you can purchase the product, because most cheese cultures, all you have to do is, on the websites that you buy them from, have a look at the bacteria names. So the bacteria names don't change. They're in Latin, obviously. So what you're going to have to do is just compare. So I'm pretty sure that an M30 is comparable to a type A. And you'll see various different cheese suppliers have different types, but they all have in the fine print the bacteria that are present in that starter culture. So what you can also do, I did a podcast that was all about starter cultures. So just pop over to Little Green Cheese and have a look at that, and you will be able to determine the different types of starter cultures. There's a great link to a PDF file on the net that describes all the properties of the different types of starter cultures, or the lactobacillic bacteria. So hopefully that answers your question. Just have a look at the bacteria names. And the next question is from a lady called Sue White. Now, Sue doesn't say where she's from either, but she says, "I have goats that I milk and make cheese, mainly feta. I do not have a license to sell cheese, but I would like to barter other produce for it and sell the milk for pet food only. Do you know if this is possible? I would appreciate your thoughts and advice." Well, I really can't give any legal advice, Sue. However, what you do with your milk is your business, as long as you do not sell it for human consumption. It has to be pasteurised, and it has to be done in under commercial premises. You will have to look at Food Standards Australia if you're Australian, and have a look there. However, if you barter the produce, no money's change hands, and you can sell it for pet food, no problems at all. As far as I can tell, I could not find anything on the internet that says you cannot. So there's my thoughts and advice. I hope you've enjoyed it, and hope you enjoyed the interview and the reader questions. Now, don't forget that if you're a home cheese maker and you want to appear on the show, don't hesitate to contact me. My email address is gavin@littlegreencheese.com. So just shoot through a line and tell me a little bit about yourself, and I'll contact you straight back, and we can set up an interview via Skype or via telephone. And that can be anywhere in the world. I don't mind. I have long pockets as far as it comes to telephone calls, so no hassle there at all. So drop me a line. That'd be fantastic. Well, that's all we've got time for this week. For upcoming workshop dates, recipes, and my ebook, Keep Calm and Make Cheese, The Beginner's Guide to Cheese Making at Home, they're all available at www.littlegreencheese.com. Now, the ebook is available in all ebook formats, including PDF, which you can print out if you need. You can also find my cheese making video tutorials within the ebook or on my YouTube channel. Just look for the user Greening of Gavin. Thanks for listening, Curd Nerds, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Little Green Cheese podcast. During this podcast, you heard royalty-free music by Kevin MacLeod. I played Malt Shop Bop and Call to the Dairy Cows.